listen, with all due respect, religions, imagine there's a religion, it's like 5, 6, 7,000 years old. It has to create a mythos in order for people to, and their minds to subscribe to it. And that story, just like we have in society today, develops itself over the year and takes a life of its own. So Judaism, like Christianity, like Islamism, or any other religion, has its stories and narrative, and your average consumer believes the story, needs the story, identifies to the story, but it's a story. Now, some of the story may be interconnected with historical facts and could be connected to things that are even before the story, because it took elements from before the story, right? Because we speak about a religion, we speak about, well, it had to be birthed at some point, so there's actual people, real people, who are subject to the laws of nature, who are undergoing the very same thing you and me are going through, except at a different time. And then a narrative comes in for whatever reason, and people need that narrative, just like today people need narratives to hold on to, and you create a story for their minds to subscribe into, and then that narrative takes a life of its own, and because now it's interacting with people. So the people who buy into the narrative have stories and go through experiences and journeys. So in the case of the Hebrews, El-Yahudi, on a specific kind of land, they have their own story. Those who subscribe to that mythos, they call it God, right? And this is, of course, the uncontestable true God. I don't care, right? But that's it. So those who buy into the story go through an actual story in everyday life. And they start to organize themselves. And they start to have fights amongst themselves. And they start to be in rivalries with other people who have other stories. And then shit happens. Right? So the story goes that they're together, and then they split into tribes, and because one people, but now we're separated, and then we divided in regions, the upper part and the lower part, and then the upper part gets invaded and people leave. So it was one, it split into 12 in one, the 12 tribes, and then the upper part, the north of that land got invaded, so some of these people left. So where did these people go? Elsewhere. And then they continued their lives. And they continue to fuck, and they continue to reproduce, and they continue to share their narrative or their mythos or their story. And eventually, maybe their story got mixed with, because they went somewhere else, and somewhere else they have their story. So maybe some stayed faithful to a certain degree to their story, or that story got mixed with other people. So at some point it gets diluted. We can even say I get lost. And then let's say 6,000 years later, a person says, hey, you know where I come from? I'm from there. But we went from here all the way there over 6,000 years. Now I want to reclaim this. We are part of those original tribes. So that makes me a real Hebrew. Great. Let's come back to the center. There's a story, it's a mythos. And we're presuming that this is supposedly God, the real one, the absolute one, the true one, the uncontestable one. And therefore, all these people are the chosen ones of God to spread godhood on the face of the earth. And now, 6,000 years later, a group of people awaken and say, we got confused and lost, and we want to reclaim our rights, which is that we are the people of the chosen of the God. Don't you get it? It's all stories. It's like we're watching a 6,000 years ongoing series on Netflix. That's my prerogative. So what am I going to say? So I can follow the story to a certain degree. I'm interested in human history and development. It's nice to see what the mind does. I find it interesting. But do I have an opinion? No, that's not my problem. I wish everybody the best. And what I can say, and this is undeniable, everyone's looking for an identity. And why they're looking for an identity is because they feel alone, and they feel unsafe, and they don't feel supported. So they want to find an identity that connects them to a group of people, and the ties between them are go deep, so deep it's blood, like my family. So it's something I can trust and rely on. And our family has gone through 6, 7, 8,000 years of struggle. So we're solid. So it's not just me against the world, it's me plus my entire family of millions of people. And we all share the same fundamental belief, which means that surface waves don't change the core of who we are. So what is that saying? People are looking for safety and security. And I sympathize with that. Does that work? Well, when you buy into a story that's 6,000 years old, it's like, that's a deep story. Well, it's a 6,000 years old story. Its roots in the structure of the mind is deep. This is like big, thick, dense roots in the mind, in the collective mind also. And now you can graft yourself to it. It will clearly stabilize you at the mind level and give you a sense of identity, purpose, because all stories have a purpose. Well, maybe not new stories. Their purpose is to distract you, but that's still a purpose, right? But stories of old all have a purpose. The Hebrew people had a story. They have a purpose, which is to bring the kingdom of God on earth. So now you're part of these people. You have a mission, you have a purpose. You're special. So this is what everybody's looking for, isn't it? But it's all based in the mind. But the modern day narratives that are being sold to you are very flimsy, aren't they? They're very shallow. This is a 8,000 years old story. That's a very deep story. It's very established in the mind. Not only is it established in the mind, it's established in everybody's mind. So what do I receive from this? Well, first, it's very entertaining. It's entertaining. I can see the nature of the world. I can see how people are just using this to feed the algorithm also. And they're all people are just casualties in this, because the person who identifies as a Jew and who's white, what does that have to do with any of this? They're just like, right, every city has the quarters where the Hasidic Jews live. What do they care about you? They're minding their business. They have their own struggles. They have to deal with their wives, their children, schools, their money, their finances, their religious orders. They're like people, just they live differently than you. They have different customs. But they have their own struggles. They're constipated. They have back pain. The woman can't get pregnant. And according to them, that's a horrible thing. And they have their own existential issues. Everybody does. So what do you receive from this is that everybody's trying to find something that they belong to that gives them a sense of self and a self of identity. And people are struggling because they lack that. Now, I appreciate that if you have ancestral roots, which have been taken away from the modern man, especially those of us who live in Americana, well, you're floating, right? If I'm connected and I can follow my bloodline for 2,000 years, at least from a genetic point of view, I know who I am, who we are, what we've done, what we can do, and what it's my turn to do. At least from a linear, horizontal point of view. Even that we don't have. But even that is not sufficient to offer you as a human being, at the depth of your being, security and safety. Because all of that you die, it's gone. So this is what I receive from all this this bullshit story. I'm sorry, I have to say what it is. It's like just noise. Now, I understand people's frustrations. I really do. Well, why can't we talk about these people? Because some people don't want you to talk about these people. Yeah, but they're doing this and this and this. Is it really that? Like, is it really this? Like, does the guy over there have anything to do with the world elites that are like, come on. Like, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of deception. There's a lot of fucking illusions. Yeah, fine. I respect that. You can enjoy yourself. You can enjoy journeying through these illusions if it floats your boat. But at the end of the day, what the fuck does it change in your life? Nothing. So, do you see what I'm trying to say? Let's be honest. At the end of the day, what does it change? If you need a word And you need to put that word here on your jacket so that you can have an identity. Like I have Nike, I'm Nike. You're unstable. So if you're intelligent, you start to understand, well, what am I looking for? Stability. So where can I find stability? We had a video with this shirt in this series about myself. This is where I'm going to find stability. Everything else is rooted in the mind. And even though there are some roots in the mind that are 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 years old, it's still the mind. In other words, it's subject to dissolution. You cannot anchor yourself in it because it's not deep enough to hold you. That's what I have to say about that. Would you like to push the conversation further?